Hello, on-demand listeners. My name is Kieran Reid. I hope you are all well today, and welcome to today's on-demand enablement session on introducing fully managed shared storage for VMware Cloud on AWS. Today, we'll be discussing the opportunity we see in today's HCI deployments. We will briefly introduce you to Amazon FSx for NetApp ONTAP and discuss its features and customer benefits. I'll then move on to how we are using Amazon for FSx NetApp ONTAP to address the opportunity by providing supplemental data stores to our software-defined data centers. We then have a demonstration of the solution, which we're really excited to share with you today. And we'll look at some of the customer examples that we've seen out there in the field and discuss how support will be provided with this new solution integration, as well as how review how we can protect your data. And in the end, we'll share some resources so that you can learn more. So starting with the opportunity, the first thing we saw was costs. And one of the biggest challenges is that while the HCI solutions offers a building block approach to compute, network, as well as storage, the downside to that is often a compute node comes with a certain amount of storage. Customers wishing to extend the storage currently have limited options to do so and usually need to purchase an additional node, usually when additional compute and memory is not always required. The other challenge we're seeing is troubleshooting. And one of the main reasons hyperconverged hasn't been seen as a good solution for things like big data analytics or artificial intelligence applications is because the compute and storage ratio, as well as the scaling demands, are unbalanced. If increasing a VM's CPU or memory footprint doesn't solve the problem, you have to assume the problem is I/O. And if it is I/O, where is the I/O bottleneck? Is it on the host, the network, or the storage layer? Are there too many data services like deduplication, erasure coding, or replication, taking away performance from your underlying systems? Since the guest VM memory and storage all share the same resources, how do you isolate the problem? Does the problem result from I/O internal to the storage on the node that the VM is on or on another node? And as you can see, it gets complicated quickly. And as the complexity grows with the size of your HCI cluster, often the only solution is to add additional node, and usually when compute and memory resources are not required. The last challenge we're seeing is maintenance. When we take a maintenance offline, a big chunk of your storage goes offline too, potentially leaving your cluster constrained. Now, flash is highly important as cache for your VM workloads, so taking a large section of storage away from your cluster means that flash misses can go up and performance can go down. So let's start by looking at what Amazon FSx for ONTAP is. It builds on the FSx platform. Amazon FSx for NetApp ONTAP offers a fully featured NetApp ONTAP in AWS experience, enabling customers to take advantage of features such as concurrent multi-protocol access, things like NFS, SMB, and iSCSI. You can take advantage of snapshots and cloning using things like FlexClone, replication using the SnapMirror technology, and take advantage of all the storage efficiencies, things like deduplication, compression, compaction, as well as thin provisioning. All of this is combined with the simplicity, agility, and flexibility, as well as the scalability of an AWS service. In addition to these, customers can benefit from a pay-as-you-go, fully managed one-click deployment with elastic capacity pool. So before we're moving on, let's discuss some further benefits of the solution. As we mentioned, it's a fully managed service, and you can do a full-fledged migration to AWS. You can migrate your workloads running on a NetApp or other NFS, SMB, or iSCSI servers to AWS without modifying the application code or how you manage the data. With your infrastructure now in AWS, you don't need to worry about running out of space with the elastic compute pool capacity AWS provides. You can protect against ransomware and other attacks with advanced security features. Next, you can simplify business continuity for on-prem to cloud disaster recovery and data resiliency needs. Using FSx for NetApp ONTAP to meet your data retention and disaster recovery requirements, you can do so with a simple and secure backup and archive and replication from your on-premise file servers to the AWS cloud. Or you can set up cross-region disaster recovery between your FSx ONTAP systems using something like SnapMirror. So now that we looked at the overall benefits, let's take a deeper look into some of these key capabilities. And the first is, as we mentioned, FSx for NetApp ONTAP is a fully managed service. It provides highly reliable, scalable, performant, and feature-rich file system built on NetApp ONTAP. In addition, it also provides the familiar features such as performance capabilities and the APIs of an on-prem NetApp file storage, with the added agility, scalability, simplicity, and fully managed service of the AWS cloud. You've got a couple of options for management. You can do so using the FSx ONTAP. You can manage FSx ONTAP either through the AWS console, the API, or the CLI, or through NetApp tools using ONTAP API, CLI, or Cloud Manager. It is also packed with features such as SnapMirror for data replication and migration from on-prem to SnapVault for backing up snapshot copies, FlexCache for on-prem caching or cloud bursting, and FlexCache for on-prem caching or cloud bursting, and FlexClone for instant point-in-time cloning. FlexClone gives you the ability to rapidly clone LUNs with large amounts of virtual machines. So this is helpful for cloning an environment for like demos or testing, or for refreshing lower level environments. Data store level snapshots can provide protection for all virtual machines on a single data store without having to trigger regular snapshots per VM. Ransomware protection or malicious or accidental deletion is also another feature that's offered. It's fast and cost-effective. It provides high-performance storage, SSD storage as an intelligent tiering to lower-cost elastic compute pool storage, and eliminates the need to provision capacity. This allows you to reduce your storage costs. And storage efficiency features such as data deduplication, compression, thin provisioning can further reduce costs without sacrificing performance. FSx for NetApp ONTAP can be deployed in a highly available multi-availability zone pair with automatic failover and failback in the case of maintenance or active file system or AZ failures. Using it for disaster recovery, you have the ability to replicate an entire storage array to another region. And lastly, FSx for NetApp ONTAP provides the security and compliance enterprises expect. We offer full end-to-end encryption, antivirus, and file auditing with third-party providers, as well as security levels or industry standard compliance, such as ISO, PCI, SOC, and HIPAA. FedRAMP launch is also slated before the end of 2022. So now let's take a look at the architecture of what an FSx ONTAP deployment looks like in a multi-AZ deployment. And this diagram shows the architecture of this file system deployed over 2 availability zones. Customers can connect to that file system from their on-prem environments using either a direct connect or a VPN. This highly resilient pair keeps your data in sync, so that if anything happens that compromises the availability of your primary file system on the left, there we go, FSx for ONTAP will automatically fail the file system to the second availability zone. If a failover is required, your clients experience a short pause in I/O before being able to resume access to the secondary file system. Once your primary file system is available again, FSx will automatically fail back to it. As mentioned previously, the system is fully managed, meaning FSx for ONTAP automatically replaces any failed disks or any other components of your file system without any customer intervention. Okay, so now we're going to introduce supplemental data store support for VMware Cloud on AWS. So using Amazon for FSx for NetApp ONTAP and all the features we discussed earlier, VMware and AWS are solving the challenges we mentioned earlier. So the things like cost, troubleshooting, and maintenance. And we're doing this by implementing supplemental data store support onto VMware Cloud and AWS. Included with this will be a new certification program where VMware will guarantee the storage will work with the managed file server offering, as well as new VMC APIs and VMC UIs, which I'll show you in the demo shortly. This integration gives customer the ability to right-size their storage needs and control their costs. Now, the cloud certification program I mentioned is very similar to what we've been doing on-prem for many, many years. This has been customized to run on the AWS deployment so that we have a formal way to validate the configuration as well as the system functionality. VMware selected Amazon FSx for NetApp ONTAP as a partner for supplemental data store support and integration. We selected them because VMware selected them because Amazon FSx for NetApp ONTAP is a managed offering, which aligns well with VMware Cloud on AWS. As well, in addition to that, NetApp and vSphere have been working together for years of co-deployment. And this integration goes beyond data store support. So as you can see, you don't only need to use this to augment your existing SDDC by providing additional data store capacity for your VMs, but you can use it for multi-tenancy through the use of storage virtual machines. Customers can run conflicting BUs side by side and lock them into a tenancy model where they don't need to worry about data slipping between tenants. In addition to that, it's also multi-protocol. So while the data stores are NFS v3, you could still have NFS v4.1 or 4.x volumes, as well as iSCSI block volumes presented from the file system as volumes to your VMware Cloud and AWS virtual machines. This allows customers to more easily lift and shift their on-prem workloads to the Amazon FSx for NetApp ONTAP file systems. And here's an overview of the connectivity between Amazon FSx for NetApp ONTAP file system on the right and the VMware Cloud and AWS SDDC on the left. So at the time of recording, we do not support deploying FSx for NetApp ONTAP in the connected VPC. The solution requires a transit gateway, which is called a VMware Transit Connect, a VMware managed transit gateway to connect these two services together. Currently, only the multi-AZ deployment for FSx ONTAP is supported, with single AZ support coming on later on this year. In the event of an outage, the failover between the availability zones is done automatically. And as mentioned previously, there's a short pause between I/O workloads, and then data will resume again in the second availability zone. So this is a good time to take a quick pause and look at a demo. Over here, we've got an FSx for NetApp ONTAP deployment. You can see that's deployed over 2 availability zones with the primary subnet and a secondary subnet. We've got our storage virtual machines, each of them with a volume attached to them. So looking at storage virtual machine 1, we can see the management IP on that is 1.1.0.86. Now, if we jump to the VMware Cloud and AWS SDDC, we'll see that IP address there, 1.1.0.86. SDDCs need to be running version 1.18 v3 and above. As you can see, we're running v4. That means any new SDDCs deployed will get this functionality and this storage feature tab. Existing SDDCs not running that particular version will be upgraded using the normal VMware lifecycle. If you wish to make use of this functionality earlier, please contact VMware and schedule an upgrade. So as you can see, we've got these virtual machines, FSx volumes deployed as data stores for virtual machines in the VMware Cloud and AWS console. If we jump into the vSphere client, we can look at the storage tab and see those data stores presented over here too. And some of them, we've actually got virtual machines running on them at the moment there. Now, attaching a volume to an SDDC is a real simple task. It does take a few minutes, so to save you the time, we've got a click-through demo, which will show you the process. Right, so the first thing you need to do is on your SDDC, click on the storage tab, hit attach data store, and then you put in the name, you type in the data store, you select attach new data store and the cluster you wish to attach it to. You then select the NFS server address, and that's that 1.0.0.86 address I mentioned earlier. For the purpose of the demo, we're going to use 150. You hit validate, you should get the validation. You select the export path. You select the vendor, which is AWS_FSx, and then you give your data store a name. Now, this is the name that will appear within the vSphere client, so ensure you adhere to any naming standards you may have within your organization. You can then hit attach data store, and that should attach. You can then open up the cluster and verify the data store has been mounted. Next, you can jump into the VMware Cloud and AWS vSphere console, hit on the storage tab, expand the SDDC, and you should see the volume presented, which should be the same as the one that you typed in earlier that met your naming standards. So that shows a quick demo that shows you how to attach a volume from a fully functioning file system onto a VMware Cloud and AWS SDDC. You can then expand those volumes, refresh the vSphere client, and scale your storage out, as well as the throughput that you need as you require. Okay, so when we talk to our customers, we consistently hear from them that they want to have a consistency across the entirety of their application stack. So by combining VMware Cloud and AWS with Amazon for NetApp ONTAP, it gives us the ability, particularly for customers that are making the initial jump, to migrate their existing workloads into the cloud by moving to VMware Cloud and AWS. Doing this avoids them the need to having to re-platform or re-architect for the cloud by leveraging the same types of technologies their customers are probably used to on their on-prem environment today. And more importantly, because we have the ability to layer in FSx in addition to our traditional HCI deployments, we're able to reduce the cost of running VMware workloads by giving them the ability to scale their storage independently from their compute. This increased IT efficiency by spending less time on managing their resources and more time on managing their workloads. Next, we'll look at some examples of that customers have started to, when they started to onboard onto the system, of the savings they can enjoy. So starting with a mid-size enterprise data center evacuation project, the customer had 351 VMs and 590 TB of storage. Now, if you look at this, over a 3-year commit, they would need 21 i3-en.metal instances. However, using VMware Cloud and AWS with FSx for NetApp ONTAP, they can use 24 i3.metal, which are significantly cheaper than the i3-ens, and save $1.1 million over 3 years. So that's one example we've got for you. The next one is a data center evacuation project that we had helped a customer with. So the savings here are a little bit less because they only had 150 VMs and 45 terabytes of storage. But in addition to saving this customer money, the other value was the accelerated time to market. They were able to provision the storage, the SDDC, in a very, very short period of time, and they were able to expand it and meet the needs of their business. The last example we've got is a government IT modernization project, which was much larger. We had 6,000 VMs and 300 TB of storage. And as you can see, on a 3-year commit, we managed to save them $2.8 million using 30 i3.metal instances instead of the i3-en. And what we're seeing here is the more heavily weighted the capacity is, the more savings are available in a mixed deployment. Okay, so, and then for VMware Cloud on AWS, you can use the FSx backups to restore your entire databases back to your SDDC. If file or VM level restores are required, this can still be done using your customer's backup solution. Your FSx for NetApp ONTAP file systems comes configured by default with daily backups for your file system, and you can change this to meet your business needs. You can also use the native ONTAP features for backup and disaster recovery. So things like SnapMirror, you can use to failover your ONTAP deployment for your on-prem environment to another FSx ONTAP file system. These failures can span multiple regions or availability zones. So you can take snapshot copies and back them up to different regions using things like SnapVault. Next, we'll discuss the support model. So VMware Cloud and AWS and Amazon NetApp FSx for NetApp ONTAP are deployed in separate AWS accounts. So how the support works is the first line of support will still be VMware for customers. Customers will call VMware. VMware will check the system and make sure that there's no configuration issues or problems on the VMware side. If they think there is a problem on the AWS FSx side, they will walk the customer through the process of opening up a support ticket and then work with AWS and then update the customer. The reason the customer would need to have VMware help them with the ticket, opening up the ticket, is because it's a separate account. AWS will not allow VMware to open up the ticket for them. But VMware will always remain the single point of contact, and customers can continue to get their updates from VMware. And that brings us to the end of the presentation. If you'd like to learn more about Amazon FSx for NetApp ONTAP or VMware Cloud and AWS, please scan the QR codes on the screen or visit the websites in front of you. Thanks very much.